The story opens on a quiet, overcast morning, October 7th. Just 4 days remain before Captain Sam Cahill, a respected officer in the United States Marine Corps, is scheduled to deploy to Afghanistan. There is a quiet weight in the air as Sam sits alone, writing a letter. Not for his commanding officers or his men, but for his wife, Grace. It is a letter meant for a nightmare scenario, one she may only read if he never returns. Every word is carefully chosen as if they might be his last. Still, he hopes she'll never need to see it. Before leaving work, he folds the letter and hands it to a trusted subordinate. His expression is composed, but his voice carries a quiet urgency. He says he hopes the letter won't have to be delivered. It's a small attempt to control the uncontrollable, to keep death at bay with a few heartfelt sentences. Later, when Sam returns home, the mood is drastically different. The house is filled with light and warmth. Grace, his high school sweetheart and now devoted wife, welcomes him with love that has weathered years of deployment and distance. Their daughters, Maggie and Isabel, are thrilled to see their father. For a while, their laughter pushes back the heaviness he carries. Upstairs, Sam finds little Isabel alone, crying softly in her room. Her small shoulders tremble under the weight of a fear too big for her young heart. She knows what it means when Daddy leaves, even if no one says it out loud. Sam kneels beside her, gently teasing her, cracking a smile. With patience and tenderness, he draws out a laugh from her, replacing her tears with giggles. In that moment, he's not a soldier. He's just her dad, the one who makes her feel safe, even when he's about to walk into danger. Their sweet exchange is interrupted by Grace, who appears at the doorway. Her voice is calm but purposeful. She tells the girls their father is needed elsewhere. The girls groan a little in protest, but Grace's tone says this is important. What they don't know is that this sudden urgency is about someone close to them. It's about Sam's brother. And just like that, the calm of the household begins to shift, carrying the first tremors of a storm that none of them are prepared for. The scene then switches to a prison, where a man is being released. He goes out and finds Sam waiting for him. Turns out that he is Sam's little brother, Tobey Cahill, and he is being released on parole after being arrested for an armed bank robbery. Sam drives him off at a motel and leaves, saying that they'll meet soon.
Don't rob the place.
On the other hand, Grace is busy preparing dinner, while Sam's mother, Elsie, helps her around. Her father-in-law, Hank Cahill, is playing with the girls while waiting for his son to get back home. The doorbell rings, and Maggie opens the door to find Tommy on the other side.
Isabel's big.
Oh, I'm Tommy.
He enters the house and is immediately engulfed in hugs from his mom and Sam. Elsie is so glad that he came. Hank only shakes hands with Tommy. That evening, the family gathers around the dinner table. The clinking of cutlery and soft chatter tries to mask the quiet tension sitting between them. Tommy, Sam's younger brother, leans back in his chair and casually brings up Sam's deployment. It is an innocent question, perhaps even meant with good intentions, but the moment lands awkwardly. Everyone knows what it means for Sam to leave again. No one wants to say it out loud. Before anyone can respond, Hank, the boy's father, cuts in sharply. His disapproval of Tommy simmers just beneath the surface and now rises to a boil. With biting words, he lashes out, comparing Tommy to his brother and accusing him of never measuring up. He throws Tommy's criminal past back in his face, making it clear he still sees him as a screw-up. The mood at the table shifts instantly. Tommy's expression hardens, the playful light in his eyes extinguished. He snaps back, anger flashing in his voice, unable to sit quietly while being shamed yet again. The air thickens with old wounds and years of resentment until Hank, unable or unwilling to diffuse the tension, gets up and walks away from the table without another word. After dinner, the house quiets down again. Sam walks Tommy to the door, the cool night air offering a moment of clarity. There is no lecture, just a brother speaking to another. Sam tells him to keep his head down, to stay out of trouble. It is a quiet plea wrapped in love and exhaustion. Before Tommy leaves, Sam makes a promise that hangs heavy in the night. He says he'll come back. He says he'll survive. Tommy nods, says nothing, and walks off into the night. He ends up in a noisy club, drowning out the pain with neon lights, music, and everything that makes him feel less alone. Back at home, the atmosphere softens. Sam and Grace retreat into each other's arms. Their night is tender, full of unspoken fears and quiet desperation. They make love not just out of passion, but out of the ache of uncertainty. It is a night suspended between two worlds, the one they share now and the one they may never return to. Days pass, and on October 12th, Sam lands in the harsh, dusty terrain of Afghanistan with his men. The sun beats down mercilessly, and the reality of war sets in. Thousands of miles away, Grace clutches a photo of him as she and the girls pray for his safety. Their home feels quieter, heavier, as they begin counting the days, hoping that he'll return to them whole. But the story takes a dark turn when Sam's helicopter is shot down. And he is declared dead in action by the US government. Grace is devastated after hearing the news and desperately tries to get in touch with Sam, but to no avail. Later that night, when Tommy comes to drop off the car he borrowed, she breaks down in tears and tells him about the devastating news.
What are you talking about?
He's dead, Tommy.
He is in denial and storms off angrily, but soon Elsie comes and gets him. The day of Sam's memorial arrives like a dark cloud that settles over everything. It is the kind of day where time feels heavy, where each breath feels like an effort. Friends, family, and fellow Marines gather to honor a man believed to have given his life for his country. A folded flag rests quietly nearby, symbolizing both sacrifice and silence. Amid the soft murmur of condolences and the distant sound of bugles, Grace is handed the letter, the very one Sam had written before he left. The paper is worn at the folds, the ink delicate but firm. She holds it tightly, her fingers trembling. It feels like holding a piece of his soul. But as much as she wants to read it, to feel close to him again, the pain is too raw. She presses it to her chest instead and places it back in the drawer without opening it. Her heart is not ready for goodbye. Elsewhere in the house, old tensions reignite. Hank and Tommy find themselves alone, and once again, Hank's bitterness takes control. He lashes out at Tommy, using harsh words to paint him as the constant failure, the reckless brother who could never stand beside Sam. He blames him not just for his past mistakes, but for the ways he's never lived up to the family name. But this time, Tommy doesn't stay silent. He fires back, his voice thick with years of resentment and unspoken pain. He accuses Hank of never seeing him for who he really is, of always holding him up to Sam's unreachable standard. And then he throws out the harshest truth of all, that Hank pushed Sam into the Marines, that it wasn't just duty, but pressure and expectation that sent him to war. The words hang in the air, bitter and unforgiving, cutting through whatever illusion of peace the memorial had offered. That night, Grace sits in her bedroom, the house unbearably quiet. She takes out Sam's letter again, stares at the envelope, fingers grazing the handwriting she knows by heart. But something inside her breaks. The pain is still too deep, too close. She can't bring herself to open it. Not yet. While the family grieves, believing Sam to be gone, the truth is far more brutal. Sam is alive. Somewhere across the world, deep in hostile territory, Sam and Private Joe Willis are shown to have survived the helicopter crash. But their survival is far from a blessing. Captured by the Taliban, they are now prisoners, cut off from the world, beaten, starved, and surrounded by enemies. Every second becomes a battle for survival. Every moment, a question of whether they will ever see home again. A few days later, at 3 a.m., Grace gets a call from Tommy, who is at a bar and doesn't have any money to pay. She gets there to rescue him. The next morning, he wakes up to the sound of Maggie making pancakes. Turns out that they are doing it for Grace so that she wouldn't be sad. Later, Hank arrives with some groceries and tries to apologize for his behavior the other day. The two of them try to mend their broken relationship. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, Sam and Joe are kept in man-made cell, with no way out. With a little opening in the trap door, Joe looks outside, keeping tabs on what is going on around them. One day, Grace comes home from work to find Tommy and his friends remodeling her kitchen. She is shocked at first because he didn't tell her anything, but lets them continue their work. After 2 months in captivity, Joe starts losing his calm. Sam tells him to keep calm, but starved and angry, he curses Sam for saving his life and that they would have been better off dead. A day later, they are taken out of captivity and transported somewhere else. Before being transported, Sam orders Joe not to give out any information, no matter what. The two of them are tortured brutally and also recorded. While remodeling, Tommy bonds with the girls and Grace's hearts break all over missing Sam. Joe is tortured so much that he gives the Taliban all the information about their private lives and even agrees to record a video in which he says that America has no business being in Afghanistan. One of the captors shows the video to Sam and tries to break him by saying his daughter's name.
You have 2 daughters.
Completely unaware that Sam's heart was still beating somewhere in the world, his beloved family began the painful yet necessary process of learning how to breathe again without him. Each day felt like climbing a mountain, but they pressed forward together, carrying his memory like a precious flame in their hearts. When Grace's special day arrived, the family gathered with bittersweet determination to celebrate her birthday. Though Sam's empty chair at the table cast a shadow over the festivities, they refused to let their grief steal this moment of joy from their precious daughter. Laughter mixed with unspoken tears as they sang Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Each voice trembling slightly with the weight of his absence. Later that afternoon, seeking solace in the simple pleasures of childhood, Tommy bundled up the girls and ventured out to the neighborhood park with Grace and little Maggie in tow. The crisp winter air filled their lungs as they made their way across the frost-covered grass, their breath forming small clouds of hope in the cold atmosphere. As they settled into their time at the park, Isabel's tender heart began to ache with a familiar pain. She watched her younger sister Maggie with eyes full of longing and whispered her deepest fear to Tommy. Her voice barely audible above the winter wind, she confessed how it seemed that everyone's love flowed more naturally toward Maggie, leaving her feeling invisible and forgotten. The words tumbled out like stones from her chest, heavy with the vulnerability that only children can express so purely. Tommy's heart immediately swelled with protective love for this sensitive soul. He knelt down to meet Isabel at eye level, his warm hands gently cupping her small face as he poured reassurance into her wounded spirit. With the tenderness of someone who understood the fragility of family bonds, he spoke words of absolute truth about her worth, her uniqueness, and how deeply she was cherished. His voice carried the weight of genuine conviction as he reminded her that love wasn't a finite resource to be divided, but an endless ocean that expanded to embrace each child completely. As the afternoon sun began to cast long shadows across the frozen pond, the four of them laced up their ice skates with eager anticipation. The smooth surface of the ice beckoned like a canvas waiting for their joyful marks. One by one, they glided onto the frozen water, their movements creating a beautiful dance of family connection. Tommy held Grace's tiny mittened hands as she wobbled on unsteady legs, her delighted giggles echoing across the ice like silver bells. Isabel, now glowing with renewed confidence from Tommy's loving words, gracefully swept across the surface with the natural elegance of youth. Even little Maggie, bundled in layers of winter clothing, squealed with pure delight as she was gently guided along the ice. For those magical hours, the park became their sanctuary of healing. The rhythmic sound of skates carving through ice, the chorus of their laughter rising toward the winter sky, and the warmth of their togetherness created a memory that would forever be etched in their hearts. In that perfect moment, surrounded by the pristine beauty of winter and wrapped in each other's love, they discovered that joy could still exist even in the midst of their deepest sorrow. The ice held them all, just as their love for each other would continue to hold them through whatever storms lay ahead. With Sam gone and the house soaked in quiet grief, something begins to shift in Tommy. The love he receives from Grace and the girls, especially the innocent, unconditional affection of Maggie and Isabel, starts to melt the walls he has built around himself for years. Their trust, their laughter, their longing for family, it reaches him in a place he thought was long buried. For the first time in a long while, Tommy feels something other than anger or guilt. He starts trying to be better, to step into a role that has always felt too big for him. One day, carrying the weight of his past and the pull of redemption, he visits the bank where he once held a teller at gunpoint during a robbery. He doesn't make excuses, he just apologizes. It is not some grand gesture, but it's real. And for him, it's a beginning. Later, he finds himself at Grace's doorstep. As they sit in the living room, he quietly shares what he did. He tells her about the bank, about the apology, unsure of how she'll react. She listens with soft eyes, her expression slowly warming. Then, with a small, genuine smile, she tells him she's proud of him. The words hit him harder than expected. What follows is a gentle, unexpected evening. The two of them share a quiet bond, one forged from loss, exhaustion, and the ache of trying to survive the same storm. They talk, sing along to old songs, and pass a cigarette back and forth like teenagers grasping for comfort in the simplest things. There's
So
laughter.
surprising.
There's silence. There's something unsaid
such a
lingering
swear.
between them. The alcohol dulls their pain for a moment, and the space between them narrows. Overwhelmed by emotion, loneliness, and the strange tenderness of the night, they kiss. It is brief, confused, and loaded with grief more than desire. Grace pulls away first, suddenly aware of everything that's wrong about it. Her breath is shaky, and her eyes well with something she can't name. She stands up, murmurs that she needs some fresh air, and walks outside into the cold night, leaving Tommy alone with the echo of that moment and the weight of everything it meant, and didn't. Tommy and Grace go to their respective rooms, confused and annoyed. On the other hand, Sam is forced to watch Joe get tortured. The next morning, after inhumanly torturing Joe for the whole night, they force Sam to beat Joe with a metal pipe. He is hesitant, and Joe begs for his life, but after being forced and told that it's either him or Joe, Sam beats him to death while the captors record. The day's incident snaps something inside Sam, and he screams like crazy. The time keeps flowing in America, and after the other night's incident, Grace and Tommy decide not to take their attraction further. However, Tommy continues to remain close with the family, and his nieces grow attached to him. Several months later, God finally hears Sam's prayers, and he is rescued in an attack on the Taliban camp. One fateful day, Grace gets the call she least expected and is told about Sam's survival and rescue. After the call, she breaks down into tears. The day Sam returns to America, everyone goes to pick him up, and they are all overjoyed. He gets back home, but is completely different from the Sam that was deployed. Life gets back on track for everyone except Sam, who now deals with post-traumatic stress disorder. One day, while seeing his girls play with Tommy, he assumes something and accuses Tommy of sleeping with Grace. He laughs and denies, but Sam keeps on smiling and saying that he understands why Tommy would want to do something like this, and that the two of them look like two teenagers in love. After hearing his brother, Tommy gets worried about Sam's mental health. A few days later, Private Joe Willis's wife, Cassie, and baby come to their place. Sam overhears her talking to Grace about how she hated that Sam is alive, but Joe wasn't. But now she feels guilty for even thinking such things, and is here to apologize. When she sees Sam, she asks about Joe's final moments, but Sam lies to her about what happened in Afghanistan. Later that night, Sam crazily arranges everything in the kitchen and takes out his gun upon hearing dog barks. The next morning, he heads over to the Marine Corps office and presents his wish to go back to Afghanistan. He tells his superior that nobody understands him here and he needs to be back with his men, but he is told to stay a bit longer at home and give everyone space. One night during dinner, Sam reacts weirdly and then walks away from the table, leaving the girls hurt. Grace goes on to check on him, only to find him sitting with his head in his hands. She sits down in front of him, asking him to open up with her, to tell her what happened to him. Instead of answering her question, he questions him about her relationship with Tommy while he was away. Not wanting to lie to him, she admits to kissing Tommy once and says that this is all that happened. But Sam had a hard time believing it. His behavior makes his girls fearful and resentful towards him, but when he engulfs them in a hug, they break down into tears. He promises that everything will be all right. He then goes to Grace, hugs her, and says that he is lucky to be alive. During Maggie's birthday party at her grandparents' home, Tommy shows up with a woman, Tina, and Isabel is hurt seeing her. Later, while playing with Maggie's new toys, Isabel complains that Maggie gets everything, and Sam wasn't even here for her birthday.
And you were in stupid Afghanistan.
The word Afghanistan is a trigger for Sam, but it gets worse when irritated by the reprimand of her parents and the attention shown to Tina. Isabel begins to play with the balloon loudly, causing Sam to become irritated and annoyed, and pop the balloon out of rage in front of the family. Isabel starts crying and says that it would have been better if Sam had stayed dead.
Uncle Tommy than you. Isabel!
She also falsely accuses Grace and Tommy of having an affair.
Mom and Uncle Tommy have sex all the time! Enough!
After Isabel's outburst, Maggie requests to go home, and the four of them drive back. Once home, Grace calmly confronts Isabel about lying, and she admits that she doesn't like that her dad is back. The girls admit that they would rather have Tommy around than Sam. The confession breaks Grace, and she tries to convince them by saying that Sam will be better soon. After putting the girls to bed, Grace calls Elsie, worried for their safety. Tommy prepares to go over to their house, but Hank tells him to stay out of their matter. After Tommy leaves, Elsie urges Hank to call the police. Sam, believing his daughter's story and upset about killing Joe to get back home, loses his temper and wrecks the kitchen with a fire poker. He keeps shouting and breaking things while accusing Grace of destroying his house and turning his kids against her, and that she has no idea what Sam has to go through to get back to them. He briefly calms down when Tommy shows up, who proceeds to embrace Sam to calm his brother's violent breakdown. However, Sam becomes defensive and holds Tommy at gunpoint. Grace runs back to the girls to stop them from witnessing their dad like this. Soon, the U.S. Department of Defense police arrive and confront Sam, leading to a standoff. He fires a pistol into the air and demands that the policemen kill him. Tommy quiets the officers and attempts to talk to Sam, but Sam puts the gun to his head before tearfully saying to Tommy that he's drowning, and he surrenders. Sam is arrested and admitted to a Veterans Affairs hospital. After his arrest, Grace finally reads the letter Sam wrote her and breaks down into tears. Sam calls Tommy from the hospital and apologizes for his outburst. Eventually, Grace visits Sam. Her heart hammered against her ribcage as she looked into Sam's hollow eyes, seeing the ghost of the man she had once known and loved with every fiber of her being. Grace's voice trembled with raw emotion as she delivered the words that would either save their relationship or destroy it completely. With tears streaming down her cheeks and her hands shaking uncontrollably, she laid bare her ultimatum. The choice was his, she whispered through her anguish, but she could no longer live in the suffocating darkness of his silence. If he could not find the courage to trust her with his truth, then she would have no choice but to gather their children and walk away from the life they had built together, leaving him alone with whatever demons he was harboring. The weight of her words crashed over Sam like a devastating tsunami, washing away the last remnants of his carefully constructed walls. In that heart-stopping moment, he realized that his silence had become a prison not just for himself, but for the woman who had given him everything beautiful in his life. With his voice breaking like fractured glass, Sam finally surrendered to the truth that had been eating him alive from the inside. He told her about Joe, about the impossible choice he had been forced to make, about the moment when survival meant crossing a line he never thought he would cross. His hands trembled violently as he spoke, and tears carved deep tracks down his weathered face. Without hesitation, she closed the distance between them and pulled him into her arms with fierce, protective love. In the quiet aftermath of his confession, as Grace continued to hold him with unwavering devotion, Sam found himself drowning in a sea of questions that had no easy answers. The relief of finally sharing his darkest secret was overwhelming, but it was immediately followed by a crushing wave of uncertainty that threatened to pull him under completely. How could he ever look at himself in the mirror again without seeing the reflection of what he had become? How could he sit at the dinner table with his children, help them with their homework, and tuck them into bed at night, knowing that their father's hands had taken a life? As these tormenting thoughts swirled through his exhausted mind, Sam clung to Grace like a drowning man grasping for salvation, praying that somehow, someday, they might find a way to build something beautiful from the ashes of their shattered world.